Merry Christmas Eve to all of you. Thanks for joining us, America. This is Indivisible, and I'm your host, John Stubbins, and we're thrilled to have you with us as always. This is the show we put God, family, and country first, and we will always tell you the truth. Couldn't be a better night. It's Christmas Eve, and we're just thrilled to have you with us. Folks, I want to give a shout out to our men's ministry, the first hour. This is a 30-day boot camp for men, and not a better day on the calendar to tell you about it. Go to thefirsthour.com right now, and you can get all the information and get a free book sent to your front door. Share it with your loved ones, your husband, your brother, your cousin, your nephew. Get this book into their hands. We're trying to bring men back into the fold of the family and eliminate the fatherlessness issue, which has just run rampant and become a huge epidemic in this country. Let's stop it. We can do something about it. And all you got to do is go to thefirsthour.com and get your free copy sent to your door. Also, go to johnstubbins.com right now, where you can get our new coffee, Pledge of Allegiance coffee line, our breakfast blend, which is a pound of coffee. Also, Indivisible, which is our medium roast, our dark roast, which is American Anarchy. All three of these blends are fantastic, top of the line. I know you're going to love them. I'm a coffee snob, and even if you don't drink coffee, use them as a gift for someone else. I know that they're going to love it. General Flynn wouldn't endorse it, and I certainly wouldn't endorse it if this wasn't really fantastic and can beat anything that you've got. And why not buy from us? We're 100% veteran owned and veteran ran. John Ferguson is there on the left. He is our roaster and maker of our amazing coffee. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we've got a fantastic show for you tonight here on Christmas Eve. So stay with us and enjoy. By now, you've all heard me talk about Mike and his great products. Well, guess what? Mike's now introduced his MyPillow My Slippers, which are fantastic. Great on my feet, soft as can be. I love them. Mike's taken over 2 years to develop these slippers. He's designed them to wear indoor or outdoor all day, all night long. Made with MyPillow foam and impact gel to help prevent fatigue. Made with quality leather suede. For a limited time, Mike is offering 40% off his new My Slippers. The My Slippers are so comfortable, you're going to want to get them for the whole family. Go to mypillow.com and click on the radio listener square and use promo code INDIVISIBLE. You'll also get deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets, the MyPillow mattress topper, and MyPillow towel sets. Or call 1-800-716-4639 and enter Indivisible as your promo code. Indivisible with John Stubbins is proud to support my friends Jim and Angela Holland and Set Apart Farms.
Faith-led and family-driven, we're doing things a better way for veterans and their families. For all the ways to get involved, go to setapartfarms.org.
Holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of the dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Far voices, all night divine, oh night when Christ was born, oh night divine, oh night
Just an amazing song. That's one of my all-time favorites, and done by one of the very best, Perry Como. Folks, we've got a great guest tonight. I want to bring on to the show my friend Brian Davis. How you doing, brother?
Doing great. Merry Christmas, John.
Merry Christmas to you. And Brian is the author of Revelation, the Rapture, and What Jesus Says. And I want to put information about this. I'm going to be scrolling this at the bottom of the screen during the entire show so that you can get your copy of this book. It's an amazing book, and website is authorbriandavis.com. You can also buy directly from Amazon. Brian is also on Facebook. You can reach out to him at author Brian Davis. When it comes to the last days, God has provided believers with everything we need to know about what is coming. This includes the order of events to take place and even at what point the rapture will occur. When teaching on these subjects, Jesus goes as far as telling us, "But take heed. Behold, I have told you everything in advance." Mark 13, verse 23. Just a phenomenal book, and I recommend each and every one of you get your copy today. Again, you can look at the information scrolling at the bottom and get it on Brian's website or Amazon, or reach out to him even on Facebook. So, Brian, let's dig right into this.
Yes, sir.
What caused you, and I want to present this to our audience in a way that's going to, number one, get them to buy the book because I want them to read it. But what made you write the book?
Well, I wasn't originally intending on writing a book. This actually started as just a study that I was doing for myself. I have seen so many different explanations of what is supposed to happen, how things are going to play out. But I always see so many loose ends, and when I start to tug at those threads, I can't get all the questions answered. So I wanted to go in for myself, study and find out what was right, what was wrong. And I started seeing a pattern to some of these things, and I started making notes and sharing with a couple of friends. The next thing you know, I had so many notes, it became a book, and I decided to put it together in that form and make it easy where anybody could pick it up and read it.
Are you happy with the results? How do you feel?
I am. I've had some great feedback on it so far. Of course, it's a mix. Some people go into it wanting to learn. Some people already have ideas, and this is maybe not everybody's idea of what they think is going to happen. So
but
they have to decide.
Idea.
Well, this is actually, I take the words of Jesus directly out of the Bible. So
right.
I'm taking the Olivet Discourse, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and laying it directly against what happens in Revelation and comparing the two. So I try and take as much of me out of it as possible.
Absolutely.
And let the words of Jesus do the talking.
You succeeded there. No doubt about it. If you could, without giving the whole book away, can you give the audience a bit of an overview of the book so that they can understand, what it's about?
So I start with some of the basics. What do we see in the Old Testament? What did Daniel talk about what did he say was going to happen in the end days, just to lay a foundation. Then I go into Matthew, Mark, and Luke to show that they're all telling the same story at the Olivet Discourse, where Jesus comes off the Temple Mount, goes over to the Mount of Olives, and they ask him, they say, Lord, what's going to be the sign of your return, the sign of your coming? And Jesus tells them. He tells them everything right there. And then I take that and I overlay it with Revelation, and I show that, and this is where it gets interesting, is that as you go down the list, everything's there. He tells everybody in order. It's an exercise that people can do themselves. And I've got it already put together for everyone, but you can do it for yourself. You can go through and you can line them up. You can break the seals and see Jesus speaking about every one of them down through there.
Yeah, well, look, folks, and by the way, I have the copy right here in my hand. It's a phenomenal book. And just think about this. What did Jesus teach about, end time events? Just as one question amongst so many. And what did you find in your research about Jesus's teachings just on end time events? A lot of people feel like we're in the end times right now.
Maybe we are. It's difficult to know where in the timeline we are. We won't know until we see certain events take place. But the big takeaway I found was that there are a lot of people that have part of the truth, but they're also injecting their own belief system into it a little bit, one way or the other, and maybe missing pieces of it. So the biggest part of that is, what is the day of the Lord? What is the Lord's wrath? What is coming on this earth when he comes back? And he is coming back.
Amen.
At some point, he will be back, and there are going to be events unfold and wrath take place on the earth. But I've never sat under a preacher that spoke directly about the day of the Lord and the day of the Lord's wrath, what that is, when it is, why it is. And I think that is where the churches are missing a golden opportunity to learn about what's coming and why.
Why do you think that is?
I've heard different reasons. There are some churches that don't cover it at all. Other ones will cover it, but only in a certain aspect or only up to a certain point. And they either don't want to be divisive, they don't want to get it wrong, they don't want to scare people off. There's any number of reasons why it could be. But I think a lot of it's just confusion and lack of understanding, because once you see this, once you understand it, it actually is clear and easy to understand. We make it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah. Well, we do that with a lot of things, don't we?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Folks, again, like I said, I want you to make sure that you get this book right away. I think you're going to find it powerful, stimulating, and you're going to learn so much. Again, Revelation, the rapture, and what Jesus says. Also, during your research, what do you find Jesus says about what's happening today?
So if I were to try and say, directly, it's not, I can't point at something on the news and say this is exactly what Jesus was talking about, but all of the pieces are lining up. We are seeing things happen in the Middle East, in Israel, around the world that are setting the stage for what is to come. There were, without getting into too deep of a rabbit hole, there were things that couldn't have happened until Israel came back on the scene and until different pieces occurred. But we've seen, since 2004, we saw the Sanhedrin reformed. Now we're hearing them that they've got red heifers over in Israel ready to sacrifice so that they can be purified. They're talking about building the Temple Mount again. Temple Mount Institute, just within the last couple of months, put out a video talking about what they're planning on. It's the first time in 20 years I've seen them put anything at this level out. We're seeing the nations surrounding Israel, all the I'll say war, the battles and the things that are taking place in the military actions going on. And we're seeing the UN and others gear up to try and implement a two-state solution. Again, I mean, we've seen this in the past. So it's one of these things where we have to watch and see what is going to come, what is going to happen. You can't point to it and say that specifically this is it, because it could be 20 years, 50 years, a lifetime away. But the stage is being set, and we have to watch closely. And that's what Jesus says, is we have to watch, be aware, be looking for these things.
Well, there's definitely a lot. If we were to point to anything going on in the world, you'd have to point to Israel and what's happening there right now, because it's happening right in front of our faces, and it's unfolding daily, as you know. And I'm sure that you saw with Syria, the downfall of Syria is taking place and crumbling right before our eyes, and Iran is on the run, and who knows what's going to happen now. But when you're dealing with a theocracy like Iran's that wants to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, it's hard to believe anything other than what they say. Right. You have to take them at their word, right?
Right.
One of my other questions, in relation to the seals, and I know that you even posed the question, are the seals part of God's wrath? Let's take it. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'm going to answer that. No. Okay. And we can, if you want to ask a question that you started with, we can do that, or I can keep going.
Go ahead, please.
Well, so this is where I lose a lot of people, because they don't want to hear this. But the truth is, when you look in Isaiah, Joel, Amos, several different books of the Old Testament, it says events are going to take place in the sun, moon, and stars before the day of his wrath. It says the sun will be black as sackcloth, moon will be red as blood. You see that same thing in Revelation. You see the same thing in the Olivet Discourse. It's the same event, but it says specifically in multiple places, the Old and New Testament, that the sun, moon, stars, that these events will happen before his wrath. Well, when you line everything up, and you're going down and breaking the seals, comparing to what Jesus says, it's one of the last things that Jesus talks about. And then he talks about that, says that he's coming on the clouds. The angels will gather his elect from the four ends of the earth to the four corners of heaven. And at that point, he basically stops. And the reason he stops is because the question that he was asked, what is the sign of your return and the end of the age, has happened. He gave the signs leading up to it. He gave the event happening, the angels coming on the clouds, after the sun, moon, and stars. And then, it goes into the parables and starts explaining everything. Without giving too much away, you then see the seventh seal, which is silence in heaven. And you can see in Zephaniah that same event called out, because it says, be silent in heaven because the day of the Lord, and I'm paraphrasing, but be silent before the Lord because the day of his wrath is at hand. Amen. And you see the silence in heaven. So you can see all of these events line up, Old Testament, New Testament, they're all telling the same story. So often when people go through to look at a particular point of view, one way or the other, they miss these things, and they get close, but they just miss a little one way or the other, because they missed a piece of the puzzle.
Where do you think they get off track? Is there a certain point where they get lost, or is it multiple points?
Well, I would say the two biggest points. The one we talked about, that the day of the Lord is not really taught. When is it? What is it? The other one is, are the seals part of God's wrath? I mean, you've asked the two questions right there. Those are the main ones.
Sure.
And people feel very strongly about this, and I don't blame them. They should want to defend their faith. They should also really know front to back what's in there, not just pieces of it. They really need to dig a little bit deeper, find out a little bit more. And I'm not saying I have all the answers. I absolutely may be missing something here, but check out the rest of the pieces of the puzzle. Look at what's going on, so that you're not missing anything.
Oh, it's fascinating, and it's like it opens a whole world in your mind of wonder. Would be the great word I would use. Would be wonder. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back with Brian Davis.
Hunter Nation is the ultimate we the people in the conservation community, holding our elected employees accountable to the hunting, fishing, trapping, freedom lifestyle that has brought wildlife back to the healthiest and most thriving condition in our lifetime. HunterNation.org is the epicenter for freedom and wildlife conservation in America. I am Hunter Nation.
Here's to the overlooked, the overworked, the underappreciated. Here's to the fighters to preserve our freedom, our liberty, our rights, our faith. Here's to the workers, the farmers, the first responders, and those who serve so bravely in our military. Here's to Americans who proudly hold tight to our values: God, privacy, freedom of speech, life and liberty. Here's to the patriots who love this country and everything it stands for, who should never be canceled for believing in America and the blessings of liberty. Finally, there's a bank for you, Old Glory Bank, named after the flag that represents the fabric of this great country and the people of Old Glory Nation, the engine of America. Now you have a bank that values your values. Now you have a bank that stands with you, no matter where you stand. Old Glory Bank. We stand with you.
Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
And we're back with Brian Davis. Brian, if you had to go into a men's Bible study group on a Wednesday night or a Sunday school and give 3 points from this book that you would want them to take away to get them to go and research and get a copy of the book, what would be the 3 main topics that you would want to talk about if you had 10 minutes to say it?
If I only had 10 minutes, the first thing I would do is I would have them look at how the seals line up with Olivet Discourse, how side by side they go right down the list so that you can see the same thing is happening as you go. Second thing I would have them look at is when is the day of the Lord, and show them the Old Testament and New Testament verses that describe what takes place first, when do they know it happens. And if I had to pick a third one, I might pick, there are some things out there, some questions people have about, who is the restrainer or what is the last trump. There are some things that have been taught, handed down, that I might cover a few of those so that they can better understand what are those pieces, how do they actually apply to what we see.
How's the book doing? Are you going out on tour with the book? Any events coming up?
It's going well so far. I actually have my first speaking session day after tomorrow. Going to be down Saturday in Lebanon, Tennessee.
Okay.
If anybody is in the area, and well, I guess by the time this airs, it might be past. But anyway, I'm about to start speaking on this. And
well, let me ask you this: will they be able to follow your speaking engagements on your website?
We're working towards that.
Okay.
We're not 100% sure if this one will be on there or not yet.
Okay.
But we are working to get there and do that.
Okay. I would just encourage people to, again, follow Brian on Facebook. And then also, Revelation, the Rapture, and what Jesus says. You can go to the website for that anytime. And that's authorbriandavis.com. And they'll be putting up information about his engagements and what have you going forward. So I encourage all of you to do that. Just amazing undertaking on your part, and all the glory to Jesus, right? I mean, you know, it's interesting because on this show we have a men's ministry. We talk about our men's ministry, and it goes everywhere that we go. But the other part of it is that we get into the armor of God, which we talk about all the time. And, you know, before you get out of bed in the morning, putting on the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of faith, the belt of truth, you know, and putting all of these elements on before you put your feet on the floor every morning. Because if we don't do that, we get slaughtered out here, right? I mean, we are in a spiritual war all over this world right now, and people know it, and people are following it, and not just in our own country, but everywhere. That's why you mentioned Israel and how important those events are to what's going to happen overall with the second coming of Jesus Christ. So what you've done here, Brian, it's an invaluable service to mankind. And not only should you be very proud of what you've done, but we're grateful that you've done it, because I don't see anybody else doing it. It's not something I'm seeing a lot of. So kudos to you, and God bless you for the Lord putting it on your heart to put this book together. Even though I know you weren't planning on doing a book at the beginning, you ended up doing a book regardless, right?
Right. Thank you for the kind words.
No, my pleasure, folks. And like I said, folks, make sure that you get a copy of this. I think that this is going to provide information to you and open up a window to you that maybe you have never considered. And if it breeds questions, then it's a victory, because we want you to ask questions, right?
Right.
So God bless you, my friend, and Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to your family. I hope that you'll take this time to rest and relax, and let us know how your book tour is doing.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and thank you for having me on.
Oh, are you kidding me? We're thrilled to have you on. I'm sorry we couldn't have got you on a little sooner. It's just been a crazy year.
No problem.
But we'll have you back.
Thank you. God bless you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
We're
Christmas.
going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back, folks.
He was a victim of the unlawful crime.
If you don't trust them, you think they'll leave.
Greatest civil rights violations in American history.
Their investigation.
A window into the Trump campaign.
Unfortunately, it can happen to anyone.
Merry Christmas to each and every one of you out there. We love you, and we're grateful for you. And we just want to lift up our hands and give thanks to the Lord for allowing us to do this and provide this show and bring this content to you. I hope you really enjoyed tonight's show with Brian. He's an amazing servant of the Lord. God bless you. God bless your families. And God bless America.